Okay, so in this video I'm just going to have a look at solving some linked quadratic equations. So let's have a look at first example. So let's take x squared minus 4x minus 32 equal to 0, and then we're also given another one, and that looks like this: 4t squared minus 4 times 4t minus 32, and that equals 0. So usually what they will say in questions is solve this quadratic equation here and hence solve this one here. So if you look at these two equations, they're the same with the exception of the x. The x here and here has been replaced by 4t. So in other words, if we solve this for x, if we find out what x is here, that means 4t must be whatever those two numbers are that we found for x. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So let's see, if we solve this here the usual way, you can do it this way, or you can use the quadratic formula. This way here is the easiest, I think. So we have x and x here to give me x squared. 32, well, 32, let me just see, we've got 32, we can have 1 times 32, we can have 2 times 16, we can have 4 times 4 eighths 32. Actually 4 and 8 will work here, 4 and 8. So let me put the 8 here and the 4 here, and I want to multiply 8 by 4 to give me a minus here, so I need plus times minus or minus times plus. So I have a minus here, so I'm going to make the bigger one here minus and the smaller one here plus. So that will give me x minus 8 equal to 0, or x plus 4 equal to 0. So that will just give me x equal to 8 or x equal to minus 4. So now I found two values for x here. So now what I'm going to do is use that here, because this is the same equation as this, but we've replaced the x with 4t. So that means if x is 8 here and we've replaced the x here with 4t, that means 4t must be equal to 8, this here, and 4t must be equal to minus 4, my two solutions here. So if I solve these two, I'll get t is equal to 2, divide by 4, divide by 4, and here I'll get t is equal to minus 1, divide by 4, divide by 4. So these are my two values for x for this equation, and these are my two values for t here for this equation here. Okay, so that's the first one done really. Let's have a look at another one. Let's take this one here. We'll take x squared plus 2x minus 24 equal to 0, and over here we'll take 2y plus 2 squared plus twice 2y plus 2, and then we'll take a minus 24 here equal to 0. So again, you'll be asked to solve this and hence solve this. So in this particular case we have an x here and an x here, but here we've got a 2y plus 2 instead of the x, and over here you can see we've got a plus 2, we've got a plus 2 here, and instead of the x we've replaced it also by 2y plus 2, and we have our minus 24 here, minus 24 here, equal to 0, equal to 0. So both equations are exactly the same with the exception of the x. We've replaced the x by 2y plus 2. So we just run through the same procedure again. Here we can solve as normal here, so we get x. We've got a 24 here, and we need to get a 2 as well, so let me think, that's going to be, I think 6 and 4. 6 times 4 will give me 24, and I can subtract them to give me 2. So I need to multiply 6 by 4 to give me a minus here, so the signs have to be different. I want the larger one to be plus, so I'm going to put the plus here, and the smaller one here, the minus in front of the smaller one here. So that will give me x plus 6 equal to 0, or it'll give me x minus 4 equal to 0. Here we'll get x is equal to minus 6, or x is equal to 4. So all you got to do now is we've replaced the x here with 2y plus 2. We've solved for x over here. So that means my 2y plus 2, I should say, is equal to minus 6. this 6 minus 6 here, or we have the 2y plus 2 equal to 4 here. So let's just solve this. So let me see, we get rid of this 2 here, so subtract 2 from both sides. That'll give me minus 8 here. Divide by 2, so you get minus 4 on this side if you divide by 2. So over here, subtract 2 from both sides, so you get 2y is equal to 2. Is that correct? Yes. And then we've got divide by 2, so you get 1 here. So again, we have a value for x here, a value for x here, and in this case here we've gotten two values for y. Y is equal to minus 4 and y is equal to 1. Okay, so let's just do one more example of these, and that'll be it then. So we'll take x squared minus 6x minus 16 equal to 0, and over here we've got 3q squared minus 5q, and we're going to square that. We've got minus 6 times 3q squared minus 5q, and then we've got our minus 16 equal to 0. So you can probably see what's going to happen here. These two equations are the same with the exception of the x. We've replaced the x here and here with 3q squared minus 5q. So again, solve this and hence solve this. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got two brackets here equal to 0. So here this is going to be x times x. We've got a 16 here, so I'm going to do, let's see, we can do 16 times 1, which won't work. We can do 4 times 4, which won't work. So we can do 8 and 2, I think. Yeah, 8 and 2 will also give me 6 if I subtract them. We want a minus again. I want the larger one to be negative, so I'm going to put a minus here and a plus here. So here I've got x minus 8 equal to 0, and I've got x plus 2 equal to 0. That will give me x is equal to 8, or x is equal to minus 2. Okay, so now we've done the x, we solved for x on this, in this equation here, but we've replaced the x here with 3q squared minus 5q. So that 3q squared minus 5q must be equal to 8, or it must be equal to minus 2. So you've got to solve both of those. So you've got 3q squared minus 5q is going to be equal to 8, or we've got 3q squared minus 5q is going to be equal to minus 2. So now this, in this case, we've got a q squared, we've got a q, and we've got a number. So we've got to solve these using, this is really a quadratic trinomial here. So if you take your 5q, bring the 8 over, that's equal to 0. Over here we've got a 3q squared minus 5q plus 2 is equal to 0. So here we have two quadratic trinomials to solve for q. So in this particular case, you've got to do your two brackets again, or you can use the quadratic formula. We're going to do two brackets here as well. So let's see. Here we've got 3q times q. Now we've got an 8 here, so we can do 8 times 1 or 2 times 4. So I'm going to do, let me see, 4, 3 4 is 12. Let me see, what will I do here? I'm going to do, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 8 times 1. I think that will work. I'm going to put an 8 and a 1 here, because I can see here I've got an 8 and a 3 and a 1 here, so I will end up with 5. Yeah. So I need a plus and a minus here, because I've got a minus here. So let me see, I need to have a negative 5, so I need the bigger one to be negative, so the 8 is bigger, so I'm going to put the minus here and the plus here. So here I'll get 3q minus 8 is equal to 0, or q plus 1 is equal to 0. So that will give me 3q here is equal to 8. Add 8 to both sides. That will give me q is equal to 8 divided by 3. Now here I'll just end up with q is equal to minus 1. Subtract q from both, subtract 1 from both sides, I should say. What about this one here? Well, I've got a 3q squared, so that's going to be 3q times q. Here I've got a 2 times 1, so I'm going to go 2 here and 1 here. So 2q and 3q will give me 5q. Now I need a plus here, so it's going to be minus minus or plus plus. So because this is a minus, I'm going to go minus minus here, and that works. So here I end up with 3q minus 2 is equal to 0, or q minus 1 is equal to 0. This will give me 3q is equal to 2. Add 2 to both sides. That will give me q is equal to 2 over 3. Here I'm just going to end up with add 1 to both sides, so I'm going to end up with q is equal to 1. Okay, so I've ended up with x is equal to 8. I've ended up with x is equal to minus 2 for this equation here. Here there are four equations, or four solutions I should say, for q. So I've got q is equal to 8 over 3. I've got q is equal to minus 1. I've got q is equal to 2 over 3. And finally I've got q is equal to 1. And that's it. So you get two solutions here, you'll get four solutions on this side here. Okay, and that's it for solving linked quadratic equations.